What's happening, man? Um, I want to talk about magic. I want to talk about magic, and I am gonna be covering a few different aspects, but this is kind of gonna be the purpose of it is to kind of explain a theory that I have as far as like why magic in totality is in the state that it's in, at least as far as, you know, outside of occult circles, um, secret orders, mystery schools that are still in operation, actual mystery schools. I'll get into that. Um, I feel like there is a very good reason for why the forms of magic that we see in recent times, and I don't just mean, within the last 10, 20 years, I mean for the last, you know, at least 120, 125 to 175 years. Um, it's vastly different from uh, older accounts, older iterations and representations of what magic is. Um, the farther you go back, the less versions of magic you see. There are many different versions of magic now, and though there have always been different disciplines and different paths, I would say, there were not always all these different iterations and you could call them disciplines. I'm just gonna call them iterations, though. Before I get into that, if you would like to donate slash contribute to the channel, the PayPal link is in the description. It's also in the description of the channel. If you have suggestions or questions or just want to reach out, say what's up, or if you want to participate in a study, if you want to give an interview, um, whether it be, on the record or anonymous on something that I've spoken about before, like coming on the dream show or do an interview about a dream experience or dream experiences, or dream-like experiences that you've had, or essentially just anything. If you want to reach out, um, the email is gammaauobsidian, gammaauobsidian at gmail.com. Same thing for the Instagram. I'm not going to be as active on Instagram. Um, I had a situation with the last video that I recorded using Instagram. I know that's goofy, but that's how I started. I just never really made the effort to do anything else. I just felt like a ritual almost. No, 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 that's not a pun, but no joke intended there. But it did feel like a ritual. I just kept going to Instagram and recording. Sometimes I would get some interaction from those that would join the lives, but it's just not working out. So I'm going to be using a different format for filming, and I'm also going to be doing a lot more non-solo stuff in the future. So I also went ahead and got another another app for that, another resource for that. So I'm excited about that, though. It's not going to be anything that degrades the quality. Um, the interviews are going to be good quality. The audio is going to be good. There have been many times where I've had someone join in a video, and when using the Instagram app, just doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good. Doesn't really look good. And so this is going to be good. It's going to be a good thing. So I took some notes, and they are not in order because my brain doesn't work like that. So I'm going to do my best. I don't think it really goes that bad when I use notes, and I'll get better with it as I go along. So, and I don't even know if this is in an order that flows well, but I'm not really concerned with that because this is just as much documentation for myself as it is for you all. So, you know, it'll work out. So the theory that I have, and there's I think going to be more than one theory aspect within this video, but the first one that I want to talk about is um, within all of these different disciplines, um, different definitions of magic that have come to be. I think that the reasoning for that is kind of us grasping at straws as a civilization. We have all of these texts and all of these accounts of extraordinary and amazing feats and accomplishments and capabilities and firsthand accounts of seeing things and doing things that are fantastical. And within that, I think we see those accounts and those documentations, and we think to ourselves, well, we should be able to do that. There's also the many grimoires and um, tablets, cuneiform, all these different things that are seemingly direct instructions and diagrams and illustrations of how magic should work. And if you notice, if you've studied magic or if you've looked into magic to any degree, if you're honest about it, you'll see that the majority of these things do not work. They do not work in the way that many of us think when we hear the word magic. I use this example a lot. I know it's getting tired, but the example that I like to use would be, you know, the Magicians series, Harry Potter. You could even go Lord of the Rings. You could say lots of things for representations of what at least I think about when you say the word magic and its implications. But what you see in reality when beings talk about magic are various forms of divination, various forms of what I would just call, psychology, therapy, and essentially you can draw a lot of correlations between, for instance, um, Abrahamic religion and a lot of forms of magic that you see. And what I mean by that, I made a short video about this. I think it's titled what I basically was saying. If you do shadow work and if you practice these forms of divination and magic, not necessarily so much the divination, but aspects of these forms of magic, like the clip off and things like that, are you just praying and doing psychology? Because that's what, after looking into it myself, like I say a lot, I want to be a magic user. I want to learn how to use magic. But as I went through these different aspects and different disciplines, looking into where I can learn real magic, I kept coming across psychology and semantics for prayer, and this really bothered me a lot. Um, and so it's something where I definitely understand and know that it's a cult for a reason, and I also understand why mystery schools were hidden and not shared with everyone, um, and not just because they wanted the information to be kept secret or as some sort of aptitude test or anything like that. It's also because of you know um, being ostracized, and to go well beyond that, as polytheism and paganism was being snuffed out by monotheism and the Roman Catholic Church and the Crusades, witch hunts. It became more and more dangerous to involve yourself publicly in these practices and in the use of magic. Um, Even as the magic began to, for lack of a better word, disappear from this realm, it didn't matter if you were found to be or even suspected to be using magic or grimoires or consorting with the devil, or whatever words they began to use as moments passed. You would be locked up or tortured or murdered, or excommunicated, depending on where you were. The reach of the Church, of the Vatican, of the Roman Empire was vast and spreading very quickly. It was a campaign. It was a campaign to search and destroy and assimilate. And so, there's kind of two things there that were working against magic users and these oral and written traditions. Um, and that kind of leads into another aspect of my theory as to what happened here. Um, I also believe that we go through cyclical um, seasons, cyclical ages, where you see different energies that are prevalent and dominant in the realm. And you can back this up with chronology. You can back this up with accounts and documentation of events. You can see the difference in the accounts of what people said they saw, interacted with, who they interacted with. Um, it became, less and less commonplace to see those dealing with, ultra terrestrial beings, magic familiars, magic power, things of that nature. You know, people talk about it all the time. You have all these beings, all these concepts that just kind of seem to vanish from the record. Um, I didn't look into when specifically the last account of something magical would have been, because that would be way too hard to find. Way too hard to be able to make a distinction on. Um, and so, just that's why I kind of give a general amount of time, and it could be well beyond that. It could be more than 175 years or so. But again, I don't trust history because it's been heavily manipulated and subverted. So who fucking knows? Um, and so I think that what we're going to end up seeing, and I'm not the only one that thinks this is not necessarily an original thought. This is an original thought, but it's inspired by a couple of other researchers. Um, Archaics, for the chronology side, and the documentation for events that show massive changes to the realm and the physics of the realm and how this place kind of terraforms. I won't say terraforms itself, because it very much seems like there are those that are at the very least managerial, if not in control. Speaking of the Anuna, and whoever else, ultra terrestrial beings, I do still think that there are those as well. I don't think they're the same thing, but I do think there are both. Um, and Jay Dreamers, whose work on his plasma apocalypse theory shows a lot of this, and he does a very, very good job of breaking down these um, these energies, these occurrences, these um, you know aspects of magic that were very much prevalent and very much commonplace to see. And it's my thought that there was likely a specific, Phoenix event, plasma apocalypse, one of those, because they aren't the same. Um, it seems like Phoenix events happen a lot more often than plasma apocalypses or apocalypses by that name. Um, but it's my thought that one of those brought about the either unintentional or intentional snuffing out of the energy necessary to be able to not only use magic, but to sustain magic on the realm. So, not just us using, but the realm sustaining magical things. Um, and magical things and magic, those have become, because they didn't used to be, but those have become subjective in their distinction, in their definition. But I'm sure you can get the context from that. I've given the examples um, to essentially go from magicians, hobbit world to this, where it's heavily linchpinned upon technology. You can even make the argument that a lot of what we view as technology, many others in the past could have seen it as magic. That's another aspect of this. Some of the things that they were definitely talking about um, being magical was just technology. That's a huge aspect, and definitely something that I make sure to mention anytime I get into pretty much anything that has to do with these types of topics. I use the concept of chariots of fire a lot, but there's the reason why you see lots of cultures document things on tablets versus using bound paper or um, mud or whatever they had at their rock faces. It's because they saw other beings with real tablets, like this phone I'm recording with. They saw other beings with real tablets, and they mimicked that. Um, it's the same thing as a cargo cult religion. They saw planes dropping off food and equipment and supplies, and they were so thankful and um, not in a negative way, but so ignorant that they thought that that was gods dropping off and dropping off things and taking care of them. And so they kept doing rituals when they saw these planes, such as you know fashioning sticks into things that looked like guns and marching in step like they saw the soldiers doing. When the soldiers left, they kept doing those rituals because it became a religion for them. And so this can kind of show how context and direct contact with different things can give you different ideas of what something is. And so I believe all of these things affect our idea of what magic is. And I've spoken a lot on magic before, and my intention was never to be necessarily like offensive, but I do I take it kind of personally when someone says, "Oh, you're gonna learn magic," and then a month or two later, I realize that we're just doing psychology. There's ritual, there's talismans and artifacts and all these things, but when it really gets down to brass tacks, they many times are not honest with you about the fact that you're just doing shadow work and inner work and working on the self, which those things are important, but I think it's disingenuous to call that shit magic, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion. Not trying to change a whole culture, because that's